All right, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you for being here. For those that don't know me, my name is Danny Graham. I'm the president of the Deschutes County Sheriff's Employee Association. Right now, we are at a unique crossroad in our agency. We have a lot going on, and this is for me personally, and I know a lot of the employees and members here, this is a big night. I have worked here well over 20 years with the Sheriff's Office, and there have been several appointments for sheriff over that time. However, those have all been recommended by an outgoing sheriff or a sheriff retiring, and we have never had, as far as I know, an instance where we have multiple highly qualified candidates or persons interested in that position. And I thank the county commissioners. Two of them are here tonight, which I greatly appreciate, and I appreciate them willing to listen to us or hear us and help be a part of this. So thank you to them, and thank you to the media and the public that are here, whether it be in person or at home. This is it's greatly appreciated. So to get the public input on this as well, or a viewership. We have five, and thank you to my board, my executive board that I get to work with here beside me. We try to keep the association running as great as we can, and do all we can. Thank you to Scott Breeze over here for live streaming it for us, and his crew makes it very possible for people to watch us from home. So we have five persons that are here tonight that I personally have reached out to be here. Their names came to me one way or another, whether it be from them or from other persons in the community, saying they were interested in this position for the appointment of Deschutes County Sheriff. And I appreciate them coming here and being willing to participate in this event. I would like to introduce them real quick. They'll tell more about themselves. But I'll just give a quick rundown. First, here we have retired Center Police Chief Corey Darling, who's also Director of Safety at COCC. Okay, thank you. Retired Captain Darren McMaster from the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. Current Undersheriff Aaron Wells from the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. Detective Captain, current Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, Ty Rupert. And Detective Lieutenant, current with the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, James McLaughlin. Again, I appreciate you all being here. You are very well all qualified for this, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. What we're going to do is, it's going to be a little bit of a long thing. I'll try to make it quick. I'm going to give each person about 5 minutes for an opening intro about themselves, and then I have 7 questions for each of them, about 3 minutes for each question. And I'll read them off to them. They also have copies of the questions in front of them for reference, because long questions can be hard to remember everything to cover. And they were provided those questions earlier this morning to help prep a little bit, to be, for efficiency purposes and to be prepared. And then the members of the association that are in here, we're doing a ranked choice vote amongst all of our members. And when the vote closes, I'm gonna have those results and just forward them on to the county commissioners for their information. And then after this is over, I'm sure most of these 5 will be lingering around for any questions or input you might want to give them, and they might have some stuff to hand out or any other questions. But I will sit down and get this started for y'all.
Please take this time to silence your cell phones if you haven't already.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mom. All right, so I'm going to go in order of seating, but I'm going to rotate it one for each question, so you're not always first. Mr. Corey Darling, would you like to start with telling us about yourself? There's a microphone over there or over there, whichever you prefer. You use the podium or own the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. It's an honor and a pleasure. My name's Corey Darling. I moved to Central Oregon in 1984 I was working for a sales company, and they moved me here. I didn't know where Bend was on the map. I hadn't heard of Bend, but it has been a fantastic place to live and to work. I started my career in law enforcement in 1988, and it was a difficult path to get into, a difficult career to start. So I started as a reserve with Jefferson County. And then I landed a position with the Reserve Department with Bend PD. I was a Marine deputy with Deschutes County Sheriff's Department for a summer. At the end of the summer, I found myself unemployed. And so I took a position with the Sun River Police Department. Back then it was called the Sun River Department of Public Safety Department of Safety. And then I took a small jaunt to Washington State Patrol. And I had my application in with Ben when I went to Washington. And I got a call when I was at the academy, 12 weeks into the academy. And the chief of police of Bend offered me a position with Bend PD. And that was my goal. That's where I really wanted to work. Deschutes County is where I wanted to be. So I came back in 1990. Did my career primarily with City of Bend. Rose through the ranks, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and then captain. Retired from Bend PD in 2018 and went to work as the chief of police in Sun River. I did that for 4 years, and then I retired from law enforcement in 2022. Ready to get started?
Sure. We're going to go to the next
Oh, gotcha. All right.
intro and then rotate through questions. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm glad that Danny reached out to me and invited me here tonight. I remember a number of years ago in 2000 when Les Stiles was running for sheriff that he came to one of our association meetings to talk with us and tell us who he was, what he was about, and what his vision for the office would be. And so when I heard about this opportunity, I was enthusiastic about coming and talking with you because I think it's an important step that everybody in the sheriff's office here gets to see who the candidates are and what they're about, what their vision might be, how they might see the agency. So I'll start with my military background. I joined the Air Force in 1985. I became an aircraft mechanic. I worked on B-52s as a crew chief at Castle Air Force Base. When I left active duty, I went into the Guard for a year full-time. I worked on C-130Es in the Air National Guard. And then I got into law enforcement. I applied here at the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. And I left the Air Force and I went to the unit in Portland for the Air Force Reserve. And so I continued as a C-130 crew chief there while I was a full-time deputy. And that wasn't without difficulties. I know that some of you in here as deputy sheriffs are also serving either the National Guard or the reserves. Some of you have been deployed while you were working here. I too was deployed to the Kosovo War, and so it brings a lot of hardship. My law enforcement career, I started here as a patrol deputy. I worked as a deputy here in Bend. I became an FTO. Later, when an opening opened in the North Station, we were in downtown Redmond. I became what was termed then a resident deputy in Redmond, which by that time, resident deputies were kind of going out the window and we were changing as we were growing as a sheriff's office. But nevertheless, I worked up in Redmond and Terrebonne until I became a detective in 1999, and I went into the detectives division. I did that for almost 2.5 years, and I got promoted to sergeant and went back to patrol to run a patrol team. And in those days, there was just one sergeant on the team and a corporal, and then the deputies. From there, I became the detective sergeant, so I went back to detectives. I spent another couple, 2.5 years there. And then during that time is when the sheriff's office was really starting to expand. And so Sheriff Stiles was going to create lieutenant positions to run all the patrol teams. And so The way I saw it was I had been a patrol sergeant, and if I finished my stint as the detective sergeant and just go back to patrol as a sergeant, then I've kind of sunk down a rung on the ladder, right? So I decided I would become a lieutenant, or try to, and I got selected. So I ran a patrol team as a lieutenant for quite a few years. Had a great time. Some of you worked with me and for me during those years. After a while, they opened up the admin lieutenant position, and I felt like maybe I needed a break from, 2 nights, 2 days, or 2 days, 2 nights, and all that kind of stuff. So I became the admin lieutenant, which actually turned out to be a really good experience for me, because I got exposed to some budgeting stuff. I got exposed to a lot of administrative stuff. I got exposed to working in the community with different groups in the community, working at the fair, running the booth, and talking to the citizens of Deschutes County. Quilt show, all those kinds of things. It was a really good experience. And then when Shane Nelson became the sheriff, then I was promoted to captain. At that point, my career took a little bit of a turn because I became the jail commander. And I had never really worked in the corrections setting other than bringing, prisoners in for booking. And so that gave me an opportunity to see our other side of the house, which is one of the mandated services, a 452 bed facility, and how that works. And I got to learn about things like, serving meals 3 times a day, getting court security going, getting transports going, classifications, all the things that it takes to run a jail, and how difficult of a job that actually is to be locked in there with those folks and trying to manage that day to day. And so it gave me a real appreciation for what our corrections deputies and staff over there go through. And I got to work with them closely and intimately, and it was a great experience. I went to the Pole Corps course at DPSST, which is a 2-week course that takes police officers, as you know, and turns them into corrections deputies. And so that was a really good experience for me as well. So then when Mike Schultz came to the sheriff's office and became the commander of the jail, then I moved over to the detective division as their commander. That kind of rounded out my career. As you all know, Shane and I got sideways with each other, and then, I had to leave. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to stand up here and make this a bash fest for any reason whatsoever, but I do want to correct one thing, because it should be known. He actually demoted me to lieutenant, so I'm not a retired captain technically. My highest rank held was captain, but I actually retired as a lieutenant. So thank you.
Under Sheriff Wells.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners, for showing up. Thank you, staff, for coming out and taking this opportunity to hear from us. Really appreciate you all being here in this opportunity. So my path was a little different. I was a Southern California guy, so not from the Northwest, but my mom actually is from Goldendale, Washington. Not that that matters, but yeah, so a little bit of ties up here. Went to college at Oregon State, played football there. That's kind of what brought me up here. Got married. Thought I was going to be a youth pastor, so I went to a year of school of ministry in Corvallis, Oregon, and ended up moving to Southern California again to work in Vista as a youth pastor and a school teacher. It was kind of a combined program they had there to kind of be able to pay their staff. So I did that for about 3 years, and then moved on to got an opportunity to come back to Oregon. My wife is from Oregon, and she was not real happy in Southern California, not enough rain or something like that. I don't know. But that was kind of her deal. So we ended up, I got an opportunity to come up here as a pastor. So I was offered an opportunity as an assistant pastor to start a church. So I moved to Bend and started a church, thought I was going to be a pastor. But I was working because it wasn't a paid position. So I ended up getting a job working in the school district. I worked for Summit High School as a campus monitor and a tennis office aide. And I worked with 2 Bend PD guys, Dave Burley and Rob DeWitt. And over my time there, they're like, you should really think about law enforcement. And I was like, hard pass, bro. Not really my jam. I was like, I like chasing kids around school, and I enjoy interacting with kids. But at the time, I thought the pastor was kind of, that was the route that was going to be where I was going to be at, not in law enforcement for sure. So that was kind of that way for a couple years. I enjoyed what I did, but then I had one child at the time and wasn't making enough money, so I ended up working for Polish Homes. I was a site supervisor there where I managed the back end of the build. And I did that for a little bit of time. And as everyone knows, in 2006, we had a recession. I was one of the victims of the recession, and I got laid off in October. And I was looking for a job, and I'm going, man, I have 2 kids now. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I did remember these 2 cops that I could be a cop. And one of my best friends was an OSP trooper down in Southern Oregon area. And so I called him, and I was like, hey, man, what do you think? And he was like, you should probably do this. You're going to love it. Team environment. You're an ex-football player. I think you'd really enjoy that kind of camaraderie and that aspect of what the job brings. We had a lot of respect for each other, and he's like, I really think your integrity matters, and it's going to be a big part of the job. So I applied at Redmond and Deschutes County back in 2007. Deschutes County said no thank you. So it's odd that I find myself here now. Almost 18 years ago now, they said they were going to pass. But Redmond didn't. And so Redmond gave me an opportunity, and I thank the Lord for that, because I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be in law enforcement. So my time in law enforcement, I've been obviously like a lot of the guys you're going to hear from today. I mean, we've been officers and detectives and DREs and SWAT team and lieutenant. And then finally, my last 3 years at Redmond, I was a captain. Initially, I was the only captain because that was the makeup of the department. But then in my last year and a half there, leading up to December, I was the administrative captain. So a lot of the programs and budget and negotiations was kind of where I was at with my last kind of time there. I was offered an opportunity here as the undersheriff, and it was kind of the way it was. I was approached about it was, hey, it was a rough year for a lot of people, and we have an opportunity to really kind of create positive culture and positive change. And so I took the opportunity, and now I'm here with you all at the sheriff's office. So thank you.
Captain Rupert?
Good evening. I'm Ty Rupert. I'm a captain with the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. Born and raised Eugene, Oregon. Sorry for the OSU football player, but yeah, born and raised in Eugene, Oregon. From a young age, my father was a Marine in Vietnam. I lost him when I was 9 years old. He died from cancer from Vietnam. I get a little nervous. I want to thank the commissioners. I want to thank all of you for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to thank the board for the invitation as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sorry about that. So he passed away when I was 9. He was trying to become a cop. Found out he had cancer. Never had the opportunity. So I knew from a young age that I wanted to be like my dad. So when I joined the Marine Corps, I'm sure he probably wasn't happy, but I was. I went in the Marine Corps. And I graduated boot camp 1988 as the honor man from Marine Corps boot camp. I served 4 years honorably as a Camp Pendleton. I'd served during the Gulf War. Got out in 1991 with an honorable discharge. Left Southern California. I moved to Everett, Washington. My mom had remarried, and I was in Everett, Washington. And I thought I would try to apply for the Washington State Patrol. It was interesting hearing that Corey was up there. Back in the early 90s, for those of you that remember, trying to get hired as a law enforcement officer was not easy. Very competitive. My application process with Washington State Patrol, there were 1,800 applicants for 2 jobs. I made it all the way to interviews, and I got the thanks but no thanks letter about 3 weeks later. So I tested multiple times because I knew from a young age just what I wanted to do. And I tested multiple agencies up there. Being a Marine, I'll crack a joke on myself because there's a few Marines in here. We are not the smartest, okay? The Air Force guys are definitely the smartest. So I'll score a 90, 91 on a written test. Back in those days, if you didn't get in the top 10%, you weren't getting an interview. So after, my wife's here, probably 18 different places, agencies that I tested for in Washington, never got an opportunity. So I went to work for a company called Longacre Racing Products, and we manufactured scales for NASCAR and IndyCar race cars. I love speed. I love racing. I got into this, started out on the shop floor, working my way up, worked into inside sales where my customers were the NASCAR and the IRL market. Very exciting job. During that time, I had an opportunity. I met an owner of a current company that's here called Fuel Safe, Steve Russell, and he made me an offer to move here to be his sales manager for Fuel Safe, aircraft rubber Fuel Safe. They're up in Redmond now. It's about a 100,000 square foot facility. So I moved here with my wife. She goes, "Where's Bend, Oregon?" She's from Seattle. I said, "Go to Eugene, turn left, about 2.5 hours. You'll come into a town that's beautiful. It's called Bend." She goes, "Okay, let's go." So here we are. So I went to work at Fuel Safe as a sales manager. I got into the company. It was about a $1.7 million a year company. And my job was to grow sales, to expand our market. And with the help of the people that I worked with, we went from 1999 to doing roughly 1.7 million. In 2005, when I left, we were doing about $6 million plus, maybe 6.5, 6.9, somewhere around there. But during all that time, I was still testing at agencies trying to get hired as a cop. It took me 12 years to get hired as a police officer. While I was at Fuel Safe, we did really well. The owner decided to sell to our competitor, which worked out great for him and not so great for Ty. So I saw the writing on the wall, and they were going to probably ask me to leave in a short amount of time. I tested one more time with the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, and I got hired as a reserve deputy. I started out as a reserve deputy going through the reserve program. I'm looking around the room because there's people in this room that I was in that class with. I started there in 2005. Before that academy ended, I got hired as a patrol deputy. I was actually offered both corrections and patrol. I was 36 years old at this time, so I went the patrol route. Started in 2005 as a patrol deputy. 3 years later, I became a detective, criminal detective, and a street crimes detective. Went back to the road as patrol. 2013, I got promoted to patrol sergeant. I was a patrol sergeant for 2 years. 2016, I got promoted to lieutenant, patrol lieutenant. I was a patrol lieutenant until 2020 when I went back to detectives, became the detective lieutenant. Then I went to search and rescue. I've been the search and rescue lieutenant from 2023 until the end of December of 2024. And now currently assigned as a captain in detectives. The reason I tell you that, I have wanted to be a cop my whole life, never deviated. It took me a long time to get here, but I'm not a person that gives up. I talk about all the jobs that I've had because I think it's important. Coming from the military, you start out as a private and you work your way up, and there's things that you learn along the way. And I have learned in every position that I have, and I continue to learn every day. So that's me. I'm married, my wife. I have 2 children, my son Cole and my son Brandon. My daughter-in-law are here. I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to come and talk to you. Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. This is kind of a little bit like speed dating, so I'll jump right into it. Thank you, commissioners, members of citizens in Deschutes County, members of Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, sworn and non-sworn association, executive board. I really thank you. This is an unprecedented opportunity and time that I know you all worked very hard, making sure that your voices have been heard, and that you didn't just rest. You wanted to make sure that you had a platform to speak, and what I love is that the members of this agency have done so. Like I said, my name's James McLaughlin. People call me Mac. As I grew up, my grandfather was a police officer in California. When he retired from law enforcement, he went back into law enforcement because my father was a railroad engineer. My grandfather probably thought, I haven't had enough time with my son. He was an only child. And so he became a railroad cop as well. So he retired and he started working railroad police. And he was my hero growing up. He died when I was about 12, but he was larger than life to me. He was a sawdust floor boxer when he was a young man. He was the parent or the son of immigrants that came from Ireland. So his story is pretty incredible to me, although getting anyone from that time frame to say anything about their story is fairly difficult. But he was my hero, and he always gave me one piece of advice, and it was find what you love in life. You'll make me proud if you find what you love and you do it. So like all of these men sitting here now, which I believe they found what they loved, I found what I loved as well, and that was law enforcement. And it took me a while. I started off meeting my wife, Tori, who's here today with my oldest daughter, and I fell in love with her. So she's my first love, minus God. And so I fell in love with her, and I thought, wow, I really want to present a good image to her parents because I'm going to steal her away from them. And she was young. We were married. She was 17 years old. And I wanted to present stability. So I said, hey, I'll serve our country. I love my country anyway. So let's do it the hard way and join the United States Marine Corps, which I did. I would love to tell you that it was all patriotic, but it wasn't. It was for the love of a woman, which is also pretty cool. I joined the Marine Corps. I stole her away from her parents, and we went to North Carolina. I did a few things right, and I got meritoriously promoted twice. And I received orders from North Carolina to Camp Pendleton, California, to be a member of the 1st Force Reconnaissance Company. And I served there for about 2.5 years. I had to extend, so I was almost in the Marine Corps for 5 years. It was a 4-year enlistment. I had to extend to get to Force Reconnaissance. But through that time, I understood what it was like to be part of small, very cohesive units that relied on one another, life and death, that they loved one another because of that relationship being forged in the bond of combat or training or very dangerous situations. So I took that. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I came to Bend, Oregon in 2000. I have very, very good close friends that have been friends for nearly 30 years that I love with all my heart that started a church here. They're born and raised and from Bend. So I came up here with them, with my wife, after we got out of the Marine Corps, and we helped them start a church, and we ministered, and I worked at Nosler Incorporated locally, became a production supervisor, and ran small teams once again. I loved the people. I just didn't love the work. There was no windows. I never got to leave. Machines were bouncing up and down, and they were spitting bullets out. But the people were amazing. And I met a lot of people that came into law enforcement through Nosler. And I remembered as a young man, because life comes at you in a lot of different ways, to find what I loved. I was 32 years old. I found the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. I applied to one agency and one agency alone, and that was Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. I received a thank you but no thank you letter, and I wrote a thank you but you'll see me again letter, and I got a phone call back asking me to tell the sheriff about myself. At that point in time, I had been in full-time ministry as a pastor at a church locally. I had to start working again because I was not being paid any money as a minister, but it didn't matter to me. However, being a pastor, developing curriculum, talking to people, counseling them through, walking them through hard things in life, combining with that Marine who is action and go, 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 I recognized the pastor and talking wasn't enough. I needed to impact my community by being out there and having my hands on in emergency situations. It just clicked for me. I never forget every single day I come to work the first day I started and when I got that phone call. I love this place, and I've come to realize that you shouldn't love an agency because it cannot love you back, but you can certainly love the people in your region and the agency you're in. Through my time at Deschutes County, I've been a SWAT team member, honor guard member, peer support member. I was promoted to sergeant in 2019. I was a detective. I worked undercover with code. I worked undercover with street crimes. I worked as a criminal detective. I've done all the things that I've ever set my heart to do, and I've always loved them. As a patrol sergeant, I got to develop small teams. And as a detective sergeant, I did the same thing. I've been promoted to detective lieutenant, where my roles are still, they're largely administrative. I enjoy it still because the transition for me has become, how do I develop generationally an impact to this community that means more than what one person can do. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you, and we'll talk soon in the speed dating round.
thank you all for the intros. Mr. McMaster, you're up first for the first question, then I'm going to go down the line of chairs. The question is, for all of you, you'll get this. Are you familiar with the operating budget for DCSO? If so, what areas would you like to increase or decrease spending? Also, where would you spread any savings?
So this is a little bit of a difficult question for me. And the reason is that I've been gone from the sheriff's office for almost 4 years now. And I am familiar with the budget because I oversaw the budget in the jail for 2.5 years. I oversaw the budget in the detectives division for about 2.5 years. I was in all the budget discussions for several years leading up to budget time, which, you know, we go downtown and have budget meetings and present the sheriff's office budget. And so I was a part of all that. So I am familiar with the budget. However, as a civilian now and attempting to get information about the sheriff's office budget wasn't easy. The only thing that I could find and get access to was the county's budget report, and it was FY25 because obviously we just started a new budget year, FY26. It takes the county probably almost 2 months to produce that report and put it out. And unfortunately, as good as that report is, it still doesn't have line item information that I can look at. I did have a conversation with Bill Kuhn about the budget, and from my understanding, there's a budget crisis looming. The revenues that are coming into the sheriff's office and the county as well, by the way, the expenses are due to outpace those revenues sometime out in the future, sometime soon. I've been told it could be early as FY28. If things go in a direction that is favorable for Deschutes County and the sheriff's office, it may not happen until sometime FY32. So that means that we need to be doing something about that crisis here and now today. Because I can tell you in my career, there were hard times. Some of my colleagues back in the mid 90s, when we were on a levy system, we failed to pass a levy. And some of my colleagues got laid off for, if I remember right, it was approximately a 2-week period. I was one of the individuals that was in the next wave of layoffs. I had a pink slip in my hand. And if we couldn't pass a smaller levy, then I was going to be laid off as well, and along with a number of other employees at the sheriff's office. And so we don't want to see that happen. And so I would have to really sit down, if I became the actual interim sheriff, I would have to sit down and look at the budget and have discussions with the county leadership, with Bill Kuhn, with the captains, with the undersheriff. And by the way, there's a lot of smart people in the sheriff's office who work every day pushing a patrol car or walking the floor in the jail or checking in evidence and taking care of our evidence room. And some of you may have outstanding ideas that could save the agency. And so I'd be open to input from anybody who has a good idea, because it might be workable. It might be the idea that works to save our organization. I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs. But the reality is back in the 90s, that's exactly what happened. And that affects families, that affects the community as a whole. It affects our ability to bring services to the community. It affects the economy in the community as well. And so it is really hard for me to stand up here and say, what would I increase? What would I decrease? What would I do with the savings? My understanding is to balance the budget, we had to take money from contingency. That's not a good sign. And so I would have to really look at it. And most of you, if you've been around me, you know I'm a little bit analytical. I'm thoughtful about what I do. I'm a person who wants to sit and look at something if I have time. There's tactical situations where it's different, where you've got to make a decision and go. But if I've got some time to sit down, look at something, see what we can do, get input from other people, then the better decisions that we can make. And so that's what I would be doing. I would sit down with the budget and look at it, see where we could tighten our belts. You know, if we have open FTEs, as long as, you know, calls aren't going unanswered in the community, things aren't falling apart, then we may leave some FTEs open. You know, we might be looking at things like that. So that's just from my perspective now, not being able to actually look at the budget line by line and see what we can do.
No, I think I'm good. Okay. Yeah, so familiar with the budget. Obviously, we just got done with the budget prep for 2026 fiscal year. So, and yeah, we have some issues. I think in general, when you look at our current budget, we do spend a lot of money. I mean, we're a police agency. We have a large jail that we have to staff and maintain. And so I think we have some unique inputs that make it difficult for us to be able to kind of forecast how that's going to look for us in the future. But if you were to look at our spending and say, what could we increase or decrease to be successful? We're fortunate to have a guy like our business manager, Jeff Price. He just recently started, and the reason I bring him up is because I feel like he asked a question that kind of expanded my thought process on how we approach budget. Traditionally, we look at budget and we say, well, where do we have savings? How do we increase that savings or continue with that savings? And we do things like, what costs us the most money? What costs us the most money is people. It's a high cost to maintain police service all over the country. And so we look at that and say, well, if we save the most there, then that's where we have to save the most money. But when I talked to Jeff Price asked me, he said, hey, what's your budget strategy? And I'm like, what do you mean? Personnel savings, bro, all day long. I said, everybody does it. And he goes, well, if people are your most important resource, why would that be the first area you would choose to look at to determine how you're going to save money? And I was like, touche, fair question. And so I think what I've come to when it comes to budget and whether I would increase or decrease, specifically, I would look at the budget and say, if people are our number one resource, they do the work, they serve the community, they keep us safe, they keep us up and running, they keep our vehicles on the road, then we have to find a way to leverage our budget to meet that need. Staffing is a problem for us. We're understaffed consistently. And we have to address that issue in a meaningful way by leveraging our budget to do so. So if I was to say increase, I'd say I'd prefer not to. I'd prefer to decrease things like overtime. Overtime's an expenditure for us, several $1 million. If we could decrease that, then we could talk about how does that affect our overall budget, and does that equal more people on the road, more people in the jail? I think we could talk about some other things in that area, but that would probably be the one thing I would really focus on. And then in terms of increases, if I were to increase anywhere, I don't think this is the time to do it. I think we are looking at like this 5-year plan of trying to stay above our operating budget and to be able to maintain that. So I think increasing anything is going to be difficult, but if we could increase something, I think it would be a wellness piece. And how do we increase wellness to our team? I think we have difficult jobs and we need to be able to support our people well. We have things like peer support and a gym. And cardiac screening, but I think there's more to that picture where we could really invest and create more well-rounded team members. And then finally, what was the last part of that question? Where do I spread savings? I think we have some big capital improvements coming. The jail needs an expansion. We have to increase our visiting area for when people come and see inmates, and then we have to also deal with our laundry and booking area. We don't have a big enough laundry or food service to take care of our inmates. So I think if that's a big project on the horizon, we have several vehicles, and that capital improvement costs a lot. So to be able to address that in a meaningful way, we have to find a way to spread those purchases out over time. So I would say if we're going to talk about savings, that's an area. I think another area would be radios. I know it's a small thing, but radios can cost us upwards of, Ty and I have talked about it a lot, $10,000 a radio. When you have over 100 of those, that's a pretty big chunk of change. So I think if we're talking about what would I do with savings, I think we're already doing it. We're putting it in a reserve to address those areas. And I think that's something we can continue to do to address these needs going in the future.
I love talking about budgets because I'm a private sector guy. When I left private sector, I left as a vice president of that company. So I was responsible for the day-to-day operations of Fuel Safe. Had 90 employees and, like I said, several $1 million. The one thing that's interesting, and I feel, while I wish I would have got into law enforcement earlier, I'm glad that I got into law enforcement when I did, because it gave me that 15 years of private sector experience of running a large business. It's interesting going from private to government, because in the private sector, I had competitors. I had to stay cutting edge. Those of you that are business, you understand. Because if I didn't, I got swallowed up by my competitors. I had an obligation to 90 employees to make sure they had a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's a lot of responsibility, and it's not a responsibility that I ever took lightly. But it gave me a whole different view when I came to the government side or the public side. We don't have competitors. So who holds us accountable? You give us $68 million a year, which is how much we get from our taxpayers, and we're very fortunate. You go back to 07 when I first started here, or 05, but 07 we got the permanent funding, and we were blessed by the citizens. That was back when trust was high in our office. Right now our budget's $68 million a year. 54.5 million of that is staff, and the other 13.5 is materials and services. Like the undersheriff talked about, right now we're doing okay. But as time goes on in the next few years, we're going to come a crossroads that if we were to fully staff with all the people that we could staff, it's not going to be a good thing. Like Darren was saying, we don't want to get into a position where we lay people out. So back to private sector or public for me. I understand the budget. When I started as executive lieutenant, that was my first experience with a budget at the sheriff's office. Obviously, when I went to search and rescue, I had a larger budget over there. I had almost 150 volunteers, 21 paid staff. Becoming a captain, I have about 7 different units now that I oversee, so I'm familiar with the budget. Like the undersheriff said, we just went through budget cycle. I was very proud to present what I think the commissioners and the community thought was a thoughtful budget or a respectful budget. And that made me proud, because I don't take the money that the citizens give us for granted. I left a very high-paying job as an executive to come here, and like Darren said, we operated under levies. I was standing on a street corner of First and Huntington and Lapine holding up a sign, "Please vote for permanent funding." That gave me security in my job for my career, that I wouldn't have to worry about being laid off. Our job is tough enough for the staff to do our job without them having to worry about money. Increasing, I wouldn't want to increase right now. There's no way. I think the first thing, if you want to save money, you have to look at where you're spending it first. I think we presented a very fair, thoughtful budget this time. I think there's more room in there to maybe sharpen the pencil a little bit more. But understand, you're going to hear it a lot tonight. Our staffing is no different today on the patrol than it was when I started in 2005. It's almost the same. That has to change, because you know what the county has grown to in that amount of time in 20 years. So we got to sharpen our pencil. We have to look at where we're spending our money first to where we can save money, because we have about $2.6 million a year. I think last year was around 2.6 in overtime. In comparison, I think Ben PD was about 950,000. They have half the people because they don't have the correction staff that we have. So if you double it, it takes us to about 1.8. We were about 2.6. And I love the fact that we have the people that are motivated and want to work the overtime. But as a sheriff, it's my responsibility, or it would be my responsibility, to make sure that our people are not being burned out. Because once I burn them out, they're our largest asset. You just heard me talk about $54 million. I can't burn them out, because they have a responsibility to serve our citizens. To save money, we started a 256 fund. So we take money that we have left over from last year's budget, and we roll it into this 256 fund. Right now, it's about $489,000. That is a fund that if we have an emergency or something unforeseen, we can utilize that money. Or if we go to a budget cycle next year and the budget is going to be super tight, that would be money that we could use maybe for a capital expenditure of a vehicle, patrol cars, whatever it is. The other side of that, if we don't use that money right now, it's projected that we'll be about $900,000 at the end of fiscal year 26. So that's a fund that we set up this year in an effort to have hopefully a reserve in case something happens. Back in 08, I'm probably close to my 3. I'm over.
Your second three.
My second three?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
In reference to the budget, as a detective lieutenant and SWAT team commander, I've been an intricate part in those budgets for 3 to 4 years now. This year, like Captain Rupert said, I think we presented a responsible budget to the county commissioners and to the public, one with which both of those units had significantly cut costs without compromising operational readiness, which I think for community members here is vitally important. But recognize this, we didn't get into this financial situation in one day. It took quite a bit of time, and it will also take quite a bit of time to get out of it. We have to approach our budget in a responsible manner in regard to squeezing every bit out of that dollar that we get from the community into operational readiness, public safety, and the outlying things that come to support that. That being said, I still think that there's meat on the bone to cut more costs operationally. I do agree with the undersheriff as well. The most important thing that we have, the most important asset we have, and you'll hear me say it time and time again, is our personnel. So personnel are non-optional. As a matter of fact, there are some elements within our county because of county growth that just by maturation are going to grow. Units and divisions within our agency. They have to. It's a silly notion to say something will stay the same. You will rather regress or you will advance. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I do believe that divisions like our digital forensics division, our internet crimes against children, our street crimes units, vital units to public safety in this community. So if we're just talking numbers, I understand that, but we have to add the public safety factor to this. This is a long-term problem that demands responsibility yesterday, not right now. And I believe we have responsibly presented some things to the public that we can capitalize on. I also believe that as revenue streams are limited for law enforcement or anyone in the public or in the government sector, we have transient tax that we talk about. That's really unpredictable to know what kind of influence it's going to make on our budget. I believe that we can create some savings with a more robust grant program where we begin to offer up, we have a very systematic grant program that can alleviate some of those overages and spendings for operations. So that being said, I believe that as with a collective within the agency, they're very smart people that can come and strategize and look at this 5-year plan. Look at something that is responsible and measured moving forward. We're not going to save all the money we need to save tomorrow or the next day, but we need to have longevity, a long-term plan that is continual, and I believe it will be a shift in culture with responsibility for the money that we have received from the community, and it'll also greatly impact public safety and help us provide a better product to the citizens, to the visitors, and to the businesses in Deschutes County. As far as increase right now, like I told you, some of the increases are going to happen regardless if we spend extra money into them or not. Our agency is growing along with our community. What was the very last piece?
3 minutes.
Okay, so I'll see you with the next question. Hey, keep that to 3 minutes too.
Holy cow, nobody told me the budget was that bad. They have all of the inside on the budget, and I have to give them kudos for what they have done with the 26 budget. My understanding is you came in 3%-ish. Fantastic job with that. You cut materials and services. And looking forward, like law enforcement agencies, personnel is the majority of your budget, 75% or more. The people are the main focus of any agency because they're the ones that do the work. They're the ones that interact with the communities. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I know we do have to be fiscally responsible. If you look at my budgeting history, I'm pretty conservative. I don't like to go over budget. I can't go over budget. And I like to save as much money as I possibly can by providing the resources that the people need to do the job. If we had money to save, if we had any extra money, we would turn it back to the people that do the job. Whether that is looking at a wellness program, I know that the wellness program that you do is pretty good. We can always add to that and make it more robust to take care of the people, and in turn, the people take care of the community. I just want to again thank these guys for what they've done. They've done a great job with the budget, and I look forward to moving forward.
Thank you. I know budget talk is never fun or easy, so we appreciate you answering that. The next question will start with Under Sheriff Wells, and then move down the line. What will be your message to staff and the public on your first day to promote trust, unity, and transparency with a clear direction forward? It's kind of a long question, covers a lot, but
Multi-part. I think in the last few years, I've learned a lot about, from a book called Extreme Ownership, just about owning your mistakes and moving forward. And I think if I were to say what I begin with is I would just admit, yeah, there were some mistakes made. I think that I'm not necessarily saying it's everyone, but the reality is, like, our leader made some mistakes, and that's affected us all. And I think we have to own that to the public and have to apologize for that. Like, we were part of that decision. And so I would start there. I think then I would move forward with the idea that, on the other side of the coin is he's just one person. I spent a lot of time kind of being at the agency. I've tried to do one-on-ones. I'm about, obviously, 238 some odd employees. It's taken a few months. I still have months to go in meeting with everyone. But what I've realized is that the sheriff, in no way, shape, or form, I think represents the agency that I work for. And so I think it's important for the public to realize if it's a first message that the other people who work there have been doing the work with integrity, with a high level of efficiency and ability. And I think it would be important to remind them that that's the case. And then I think I would just continue with that thought that for the people who work there, I think it's a fair question to ask, well, I'm not from the sheriff's office. I've only been there 7 months. How can you trust me? I'd say go ask. Go ask. Ask the community. Ask my coworkers. Ask my former coworkers. Because it's hard to say that I can promote trust by saying really nice things or telling you all this great, wonderful stuff about myself. Your reputation precedes you. And I think I've spent a lot of time trying to build that reputation. So I would say ask around. And if I can be trusted, which I know I can, then I would ask that we come together to be the office we should be. The sheriff's office should represent Deschutes County in the state of Oregon. I think we have a very unique ability to bring other teams together. Bend PD, Rebben PD, Black Butte, Sun River, Sisters, Lapine, all these areas in the county. And be able to really bring those together because we have so many multifaceted parts to what we do. And so my message would be like, let's just forget about that stuff and move forward. We could dwell on it. We could sit here and chew it up and talk about how difficult it is and how not fun it's been. But the reality is, like, it's changing. And we get to choose and define that change ourselves. And so I think that would be my message. And I hope it'd be received.
What will be your message to staff and the public on your first day to promote trust, unity, and transparency with a clear direction forward?
I come from the Marine Corps. but it went beyond that. I was raised by my grandparents, so very old school values. I was raised where a handshake meant your word or better than a signature on a contract. And the Marine Corps instilled even more of that to me. Without trust, we have nothing, nothing. The people that I work with have to trust me. Whether I'm going through a door at a hot call, I'm helping my teammates in the jail, they have to trust me. If they don't trust me, we have nothing. We can't build on anything without trust. Like the undersheriff was saying, I can't stand up here and say, hey, please trust Ty Rupert. Some of you know me for 20 years I've been here. Some of you don't at all. Please do your homework. I'll happily give you people that I've known for 30, 40 years, and I'll tell you I'm the same person today as I was 30, 40 years ago. Because my foundation was set in stone at a young age, and I've never deviated from that. As far as the message I'm going to get to the public is that we have to get back to the 07 time frame when the public trusted our office, and they blessed us with permanent funding. Because that was a pinnacle, the only sheriff's office in the state to receive permanent funding, because the citizens trusted us that much. That has been lost over the years. I don't want to go into history. You can Google it. Everybody knows it. We're on the news quite often. We can't be on the news quite often. I work with incredible people that do an incredible job, and they get tired of being on the news for negative stuff that they didn't cause. They didn't cause it. A lot of times it's been former command staff that's caused it. And I'm a commander now. I became a commander because I wanted to make a change. So for me, it's going to be clear. The employees deserve trust from their leader. They deserve a clear vision forward. They need to understand where we're going and how we're going to get there. They need a leader that they can say, hey, I trust him. I'm going to go with him. Ty Rupert knows what he's doing. Let's go. And we got to all get on the page. It comes with respect. It comes with equitable treatment for everybody, as we know over the years. And I'm not telling anybody anything you don't know. We have people who have been treated differently, depending on who you are, depends on what happens. It's not okay. It's not okay. Everybody needs to be treated equally. We have to be held accountable because we're spending your money, but we have to be treated equally too. So my message would be a clear vision forward, set by me of what the expectation. I have a high expectation myself, a very high expectation myself. If I mess up, I will hold myself accountable. I will tell you I messed up. For the folks that I work with, I would want them to know that they're going to be treated equal, they're going to be treated fair, they're going to be given opportunity, and there's going to be an open line of communication that goes both ways, because they have incredible ideas that can make our office successful.
No, sir, I don't. Day one. Well, I'll just reference in this room what I think everybody else already knows is that we have a public trust problem within the agency, and we also have a private trust problem within the agency. And that is not caused by any of the line staff that are standing in here today. What I will tell you in my tenure and time at Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, I have watched public trust erode and be built back up, and erode again, to be built back up, to erode again, and inevitably, the large majority of the time it is built back up. It's built back up by the men and women against the wall in here, whether you're corrections staff, patrol staff, investigators, sworn or non-sworn. So that is a shame. And honestly, day one, internally, my job is to restore private trust. And that's with one word in 10-inch letters that sit behind the office or the desk of the sheriff, and it says one thing simply: accountability. Accountability to the public we serve, accountability for the decisions we make as senior leaders, accountability to the men and women who do the job every single time. And for me, we cannot have restoration without contrition, senior leader contrition. And that means meeting with some of you fine folks in the media and having one-on-one interviews and begging you, ask me the hard question. I don't want a softball. I want the hard question so I can answer it, so we can have some contrition, and I can join the ranks that are holding that wall up right now, building public trust back and keeping it. That is job one, that is day one, and it happens most importantly with internal trust, where I say we have a bottom-up mentality, where I say we are formalizing debriefs, and the first person that's going to speak in those debriefs is the most junior personnel in that room. That way I can take correction from him or her, and I can put it on my wall, and I can learn and grow as a leader. This agency and community demand it. So day one for me, one big fat word: accountability.
I'm just a citizen. I'm on the outside. I'm looking in. I'm seeing what's going on at the sheriff's department. And it's disturbing because I work with the people, or I have worked with the people from Deschutes County, and they are top-notch people. They're quality people that do the work for the right reasons, and that's what they do. The noise at the top has got to stop. You have to have integrity, and it starts with communication amongst the team, amongst the ranks. You have to get their input. You have to take what they have to say into consideration with every decision that you make. We had a problem that is not too dissimilar to what's going on when I was with Ben PD. And we had to rebuild trust with the community as well as internally. We had to rebuild morale. We started bringing the association members to our command staff meetings, and we got their input. We got their feedback. And we utilized that to rebuild our team and that trust. When we move outside of the community, it's the people that do the work that mean the most. Right now, what you need is somebody at the top that is going to do away with the drama, do away with that noise, so the good men and women of Deschutes County Sheriff's Office can do their job.
Day one, I would start talking with the individuals within the agency. We need to start building back the trust. And with trust will come the unity as well. They kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of ironic that as police officers and as corrections officers, we rely on one another when we're walking the floor as our cover officer and all that kind of stuff. When we're out on patrol, somebody to come cover us, and we trust that person. We trust that person to have our back, that they're going to rely on their training and do the right thing when things go bad. And so it's kind of a strange thing that there's not a lot of unity in the sheriff's office, but I've been there for 28 and a half years. I've been through a number of elections, and it seems like around election time, things start to fracture. People begin to get siloed into groups. People begin to distrust each other, and we need to, within our own selves, do away with that from the bottom up. And I mean, I believe in an inverted pyramid type of leadership ideal, where the sheriff in this case is at the bottom of the pyramid upside down in support of everybody else that's in the organization. My dedication to you, because I know that each and every one of you, because I've worked with you, are hardworking individuals who have integrity. And integrity is something that I hold in very high esteem for myself. I want to come visit with each one of you. As I said before, there are people in this room who have great ideas that have probably gone unheard. And we want to take those ideas. We want to hear those ideas. For a long time, when I was a commander in the sheriff's office, nobody would come down that hallway. You could ask people to come visit you anytime you want, but very few people would ever take you up on it. And so I'm going to go to you. I'm going to come out and I'm going to come have lunch with you. You know, Chris Jones, one day, I got in a fight one day in Tumalo, and it didn't go well. And I came back to the office and I sat down in the report writing room, and I was like, gosh, you know, this went really bad. And I asked somebody this, I told the story, this is what happened. And I asked a couple of the deputies that are sitting there, what do you think? What did I do wrong? What should I do better? And I looked at Chris Jones, and Chris Jones, if you ever knew Chris Jones, he was pretty beat down at one point. I said, Chris, and you also know that he was a black belt, right? I said, Chris, what did I do wrong? He goes, no, I'm staying away from that. I'm not saying a word. I'm like, no, Chris, your opinion is important to me. I want to hear it. There is going to be no retribution. And so he told me what he thought. And that's what I want to bring back to this agency. I want people to trust me. There is no retribution for somebody coming up and saying, hey, McMaster, you either did a good job or you know what, you could have done way better. And I'll take that criticism and I'll put it up on my wall and I'll learn from it as well.
As we move on to the next question, one thing I want to mention is please feel free to get up and get food and beverage if you so like. That's for everybody because we have a lot of stuff. Well, unless you're speaking, then you can't really go get it. But next question, it's kind of a long one too. What prior mistakes and successes have you had that will help you in leading our office? And then those same lines, what has been your proudest moment and worst moment in your career? Captain Rupert, you're first.
The proudest moment of my career is a very easy one for me. Told you it took me 12 years to get hired as a cop. The day that Sheriff Stiles swore me in as a law enforcement officer, truly the proudest day of my life, because I finally obtained that goal in my life that I wanted to be a cop. So the proudest day of my life was that day. That was October of 2005. The successes, I love talking about this one. The success of the people in this room. I'm looking at some of them right now that worked for me as deputies, and they're now lieutenants, they're sergeants. They've achieved the goals that they wanted to achieve. And I look back at some of the things that I used to do and get teased of writing on whiteboards and all this. And I'll stop in the briefing and I'll see them writing on the whiteboard. I'm like, wow, they were paying attention. So the people that I work with and their success is some of the proudest moments of my life. The mistake. Let's see, mistake for me is very clear. We had an internal investigation going on with a former sergeant that used to work for us. I don't want to go into detail. My wife and I had been involved in a situation early on back in 2014 with a guy named Scott Beard that went to federal prison. You guys probably know that story. So we went through a lot during that. So a mistake for me was this sergeant was going through an internal investigation, and the office wanted my wife to come down and talk because she had information regarding. My wife said, I don't want to go down and talk. I was the one that talked the last time. So I decided to make a phone call to a deputy. I was a lieutenant. Make a phone call to a deputy simply to ask him, hey, has your wife been interviewed? I knew I couldn't ask him about the case, nor would I ever do that. But I asked him, has your wife been interviewed? Because if she has, it might make my wife more comfortable. I can't remember if he said yes or no. Anyway, long story short, about 3 days later, I get contacted by my captain at the time and our attorney, and he served me with an internal investigation notice telling me that I was under investigation for conduct unbecoming. And I can tell you, as a person of my character, that rocked my world. Because I put that other deputy in a position that I should have never put him in, even though in my mind, I was like, man, I didn't ask about the case. But I still put that person in a horrible position, and I felt terrible. And I should have never done that, and I would never do it again. The worst case for me, I just told you, was the Scott Beard case of turning him in initially. That the fear of retaliation, the fear of worrying if I was going to get fired. I was a newly promoted sergeant, but I took an oath to the public to do the right thing, and I knew that that was the right thing to do, and I did it, and I would do it again. And the people that know me know that I would do it again. Real quick, the successes. I brought Leica's 3D scanning to the detective division. It enhanced our ability to be able to capture data at a crime scene and capture that data forever. Also, the snowcat, the piston bully snowcat that we have in search and rescue now. I worked with Pete Martin, our automotive supervisor, in order to obtain that piston bully so it's safer for our teams to go out. We've used it multiple times. So those are big successes for me that I'm proud of.
So successes and failures, or well, call them mistakes. You call them mistakes? I'll call them mistakes. It's hard to focus on one mistake. I'll start with that. Just get that out of the way. There's many of them, and there will be many more. So what I have learned as a commander at the sheriff's office as well is that it's important where and how you put your people, the position you put them in. We have, first of all, I have a large amount of experience in critical incident management, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But with that being said, so does law enforcement in general. So there is a very important facet to controlling information in law enforcement in regard to critical incident debriefs, whether they're a tactical debrief, investigative debrief, stress debrief. All of those are very important, and they're required to be in a formal setting that is controlled so that people are free, as you can imagine, to give dialogue back and forth. The sanctity of that is super important, especially in light of the health of deputies moving forward long term. There's a time, and I recall quite well, we had some new applicants for our SWAT team show up, and they were going to be run through the SWAT process. But I had, because of relationships I've built over the years, I am an entrusted individual at the agency, even if I am a commander. And I had a brave deputy come to me and say, hey, could we spend a few minutes? And that deputy corrected me because I had spoken out of frustration with a group of SWAT members as their commander, very small group, not in a debrief. I had voiced some frustration in regard to a specific call. In these calls, life and death is on the line. A lot of times we experience that all the time inside and outside correctional facilities, patrol, corrections, what have you. And our SWAT team is duly sworn, both corrections and patrol. Our SWAT team has scribes and assistants to incident commanders that are non-sworn individuals as well. The whole body of our agency make up that team. So it's very proud. I'm very proud to command that team at our agency. Well, I had spoken out of turn, and I had someone brave enough to go ahead and confront me on that. So I addressed the entire team. A lot of times addressing teams like that or owning your mistakes comes with maybe a little bit of tears, some trepidation. No one wants to fail. What I've noticed is the higher you go up, it becomes more and more difficult for you to fail or to admit those failures. I have a bend, not break mentality. If it's a zero-sum game and there is no ability to fail, we will A, never grow, and B, by 7 years, we will break everybody around us. So being bendable and growing is a huge success while speaking outside of that debrief hurt the people around me, and I recognize that. It was also a huge growing moment for me, and it was a unification moment for our team when they could see their commander own his stuff in front of them. No matter how high up you go, no matter how low down you are. Successes in law enforcement that prepare me for the moment of being interim sheriff. I've been in, like I said, every large moment that I can remember in Deschutes County history, investigatively, I have been in some ways a part of. Whether it be the Malheur refuge takeover in Harney County, where I spent weeks as boots on the ground and was the lead interviewer after the Lavoie-Finicum OIS, whether it was a Kaylee Sawyer murder investigation where I was the lead investigator for the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, or whether it was helping thwart a planned mass casualty event at Smith Rock with these men and women in this room I have been a part of. I absolutely am prepared for our operational readiness day one and prepared for public safety day one. Those are successes of mine. The best day I've had in law enforcement was when I watch individuals that I work with do something great and I have the opportunity to honor them. It's not about what I can do and what I can bring. It's about sons and daughters because I'm a dad, and that's how I lead. If they can blow past my ceiling, then that's the proudest moment I have in law enforcement. And Mike Mangan did that, so he's my proudest moment in law enforcement.
I'm going to start off with my weakness, because I think that we learn and we grow more from our mistakes than we do from our victories. I was a young sergeant with Ben PD, and we saw a need for a new unit for patrol purposes, and that was a street crimes team. I wrote up a proposal, I sent it up the chain of command, and the administration looked at it, and they thought, we can do this. But their vision of the mission was a little bit different than my thought of what a street crimes unit would be. However, it was a foot in the door, and I knew that we could get it rolling. What I didn't really take into consideration was how that was going to impact others. I didn't look at the other stakeholders that would be involved, namely our watch commanders. They had a vested interest in street crimes, and they made it extremely well known to me. And it was my mistake for not communicating that well, not explaining the vision, both from the administrative standpoint and from the officer level. And it created a lot of discontent when we started that operation. I promoted out of that unit, and within a year, that unit was dissolved and turned into something completely different. And I take responsibility for that. I take ownership for that. For my success, I'm going to say that when I took over as chief of police in Sun River, the current chief down there was on administrative leave. He was under a criminal indictment, and the department was in turmoil. Terrible morale, no teamwork. It was in shambles. We were able to rebuild that department, turn it into something that was professional. We built a succession plan. And when I left the department, they promoted 2 chiefs from internally. And that said a lot about the work that we had done in Sun River. Sun River's a small department. It's nothing like Deschutes County, but the principles still apply. They're still the same. The thing that I think I'm most proud of, I spent 5 years working drug investigations and code. And I did a operation with an individual, a young female, and I didn't know it at the time, but it turned out she was the daughter of an OSP trooper from Lincoln City. It was years went by after that case, and I found out that I saved her life. And she openly admitted that the reason, and the only reason she got clean, was because we made that arrest and we got her on the right path. That's probably my most proud moment being in law enforcement.
Back in 2015, when I was promoted to captain, and Shane Nelson had also become the sheriff at that time and then ran for election in his position. At that time, I was encouraged by the things that he said. I thought that he was going to turn out to be a good sheriff, and I supported him. I supported him financially with my personal finances. And as you all know, that turned out to be a huge mistake. I didn't see it coming, and I didn't realize what was going on until things got really bad. And then, of course, things got worse and worse, and it went bad for a lot of individuals in this room. And there were times when I tried to stop things and couldn't. So that was one of my biggest mistakes, is that I misjudged that individual. And in hindsight, obviously, I never should have thrown my support behind that person. My successes, we all have lots of successes. We all make a lot of mistakes as well. One of my favorite cases that I ever was a part of was when this Sisters McDonald's was the victim of an arson. And Detective Quick and I, when I was the detective sergeant, we responded to that on a weekend. There wasn't much evidence, but the moral of the story is we got other detectives in our organization involved, and within 72 hours, we developed a suspect and had that person in custody. That person did not end up getting prosecuted. They went into the PSRB board, but it's actually a really fine case that I'm proud of, because it took a lot of traditional, old-fashioned police work to try and solve that, and we did it quite quickly. One of my worst moments in my career was when I was a detective. I was going between offices, between the Bend station and the Redmond station, and there was a really bad traffic crash on Highway 97. And when I responded there, there was a 2.5-year-old girl that was pinned in the car that I couldn't get out, and she perished there. She was alive when I first got there, and unfortunately she died, and that wrecked me for quite a while. That was one of the worst moments in my career. A couple of the proudest moments, though. One of the things that I try and do when I'm a supervisor is I'm very interested in trying to create an environment in which deputies and employees can excel and to fulfill their maximum potential. And if I can affect that, then that makes me very happy. And so I want to point out that 2 individuals here today, Captain Rupert and Mac, who's a lieutenant now, they both served on my patrol teams. And I would like to think that I had a little bit to do with that. They're both Marines. That had a lot to do with it. But I was their supervisor at one time, and I hope I had a little bit of something to do with the fact that they're here today and they're in the positions in the sheriff's office where they are now.
Let's see, mistakes. I think early on, as a sergeant, I went to this training and they were talking about like making change and how you do that. And they had these ideas and I was like, well, that sounds super cool. Let's try something different. So I came back to my team and I'm like, let's give this a shot. I want everyone to do X. And my team was like, it's a hard pass. I don't want to do that. I was like, well, maybe you could try it first and then tell me you don't like it. That did not work out so well. And I basically, I think, more or less caused a mutiny on my own team just by failing to listen. So I think in terms of, you know, how does that affect my overall who I am now is I try harder to listen. I try harder to pay attention when people are talking and explaining what's going on. So that was a big mistake. I mean, I've lost my temper. I know early on when I was a sergeant, I had a hard time. People would come in, they'd start to kind of, we'd jog back and forth, and I'm like, you should probably leave because this is not good. And they would be like, no. And I'd be like, send it then, let's go. So we'd get in like pointless arguments, and I just don't think there's any value in that in a leadership position. You know, you got to be able to kind of maintain control of your emotions, so I think I've learned that. And there's probably a host of other things I think we've all learned over our time as being in supervision and having to figure out how to be better at what you do when you're leading people. Successes, I think something that comes to mind that would help this position is, you know, at Redmond, we had a lot of change when I was there, and a lot of it had to do with systems. And how do we create systems that create better kind of flow and accountability amongst our staff? And so we introduced some personnel management software that I think was highly successful. I know no one loves to hear personnel management software, but the nice thing is that it actually allowed you to compliment your teammates. And so you could hop on this deal and see kind of all these compliments because supervisors are required to submit at least one per week per person on their team, like something good they did. And believe it or not, we do a ton of good work. We do more good work than anything else. And so I think that was a huge success for us, and I think it paid a lot of dividends. In terms of my proudest moment, I don't know. You know, I think I've had a lot of good moments. So I can't think of one specifically that I would say I'm more proud of than the other. I can absolutely tell you my worst, though. Oddly enough, I don't know why, but that seems to stick out in my mind. Right before, in the fall of last year, we had a supervisor meeting with sergeants and above, and the tenor of the meeting, what I left was I suck as the captain. Not to mince words and not to blow smoke. I mean, that's legitimately what it felt like. It wasn't what was being said, but what I took away was my one job is to support my team, is to make their lives easier and to do more for them so they can be better at what they do. Because if I support them well, then I believe they'll support others well or support the community well. And after this meeting, it just felt like everything we were trying to kind of put up to make things better was not as successful as maybe we had hoped. And so for me, it just felt incredibly personal. It wasn't meant to be that way. I don't think it was directed at me personally, but I take a lot of pride in what I do. So that was probably my worst moment. Thank you.
you might be glad to know that due to time, I'm skipping number 4 for now. Come on. I know. Lieutenant McLaughlin, so we'll move on to number 5 on my list. How would you measure success during your tenure as interim sheriff? Will any success or lack thereof impact any decision to run in an election if that has not already been decided yet?
You're fine. Don't worry about the timer, guys. Everything's going to be okay. So if I have enough time, I'll go back to question number 4. But to be very clear and pointed in this forum setting, as far as, did everybody hear the question? How would you measure success? Would that affect you in a 2026 run for a special election? I'll be very, very clear. Regardless of what is considered success or not, in 2026, I will be running in the special election for the office of sheriff. So we'll get that out there right now. It's not an if, it's not a, I hope I do really good, because then maybe I'll have a chance. I've already made that determination long before I made a determination to even throw my hat in the ring as an interim sheriff. But the problems that we face, the professionalism and proficiency of the men and women in this office and who they serve demand someone that looks and says, I have a 1,000-day vision, not a 100-day vision. I am tired of people running and sprinting to do something to look good in the moment because there's an election coming, or I want to be the interim sheriff. I want longevity. I want to make a generational change. So regardless of what it looks like on paper, if there's a wild success that I could hang my hat on, hey, that'd be great. It'd be fantastic. Is it going to change my resolve in running for the office of sheriff in 2026? Absolutely not. And it's not a personal goal of mine to be sheriff, but I just so happen to love the men and women in this agency. I also just so happen to love this region, and it's the time for someone to step in and not consider their own career, but consider how we can make a generational impact and a difference for 5 to 10 to 25 years from now, so that we can continue growing with this community the way this community is growing.
So for me, how I would define success is trust within the organization. And that would be anybody in the organization that would feel comfortable coming to me and telling me that I was wrong, or that I'm making a mistake, or we're not going in the right direction. If I have people and I have that confidence within my organization, then I feel success. I feel like we're going in the right direction. Also, when people come to work and they're happy to come to work and they're proud of the uniform that they wear, that's success. When members of your organization feel a sense of satisfaction when they're engaging the community, that's success. And when the communities are supporting our agency financially and with the backing, and they have trust in our ability to do our job, that's successful. And that's what I'd be looking for.
I think quite simply, if we can get unity to return, if we can get trust in one another, trust in our leadership to return, and there's evidence of that, then internally we can call that a success. That would be a win. If you can trust in your leadership, if the community can trust in our organization, and we can build that trust, that would be a win also. You folks, when you go out, it would take a big campaign, right? We're going to have to get out there. You're going to have to talk to people as individuals when you go out on calls, as inmates come in through the door and booking, and the people you serve. If you serve them with passion, eventually they're going to realize the worth of our organization and how great we actually are and how great we can be. If I were successful, would I run for sheriff? I mean, if I'm not, then, I'm going to apologize and go away. Right, that I would not run for sheriff. My understanding of this process is that the interim sheriff would not be running. But if that is untrue and I were successful, and it would have to happen within the next 3 or 4 months in order to start a campaign, I would consider running because I would want to continue that. I'm here tonight because this is the organization, the agency that I love. This is the community I love and live in. I spent 28 and a half years here, and it hurts me to see how things have degraded so badly and how people are losing their morale, they're losing hope, and how bad they feel. And I want to be here for those people to try and help make things better.
I think that it would be important to just realize how, you know, I've heard from a few people just how difficult it is to be in an environment where, like, the idea of scandals repeated. So I think it would, if success to me would look like that we're kind of through that phase, that we're not continuing to have issues within our own staff of that make headlines, that cause us to have shame about who we are and where we work. I think it'd be important to get past that. And so I think that would be something that would be very important. I'm losing my train of thought.
Oh, you're. How do you measure success?
Yeah. I think that it would be important that we have a good job of stabilizing communication. I've heard that a lot. How do we communicate with each other? There's not enough communication coming down, and how do we share information? So I think a good interim is going to be able to balance that and be able to provide those pathways so people can get information from the bottom to the top and back and forth. I think we started to do that, but I think we have a lot more ways to work that in. And then I think it would be important to have some real conversations around how we achieve better staffing. I know those are small things, but those seem to be the things that come to my mind first when I talk about what success would look like as an interim. So if you could do those well, I think it'd be great. And then in terms of a run for sheriff, I think that I'm probably more concerned right now with how we handle our current situation. And all my focus is on surviving that. And if it was successful, yeah, I think that would be something I would consider as running for sheriff. But at this point, I'm more focused on this idea of an interim and doing a good job there and starting there before we move on to the next.
How would I measure success? It's going to be easy. It will be easy. When I took over as a captain, that end of the hallway, the command hallway, has always been known as the ivory tower, the tower of power, all those things. I worked with people that told me that they had not been down the hallway to the command area in 10 years. 10 years. They work in the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office that serves the public as a law enforcement officer. They carry a gun and a badge, and they're afraid to go down a hallway because of the former command that was down there. It's not okay. So how would I measure success? I go back to January when new command took over, and all of a sudden the fire door that wasn't really a fire door is now open. And we got employees coming down to see us. At one point I had five lieutenants in my office, and we did the football huddle, high five, ready break, and you could hear it at the other end of the hallway. It was awesome. I measure success when I know that the people that I work with, the marital troubles are reducing, the separations are reducing, because I know there's a high rate of that in our office right now, and I'm not okay with that either. That has to change, and it changes with the leadership. It starts with the sheriff, establishing an organization or an understanding that the people that I work with are important. We have to reduce that kind of stuff. So I'm going to know, not only from the employees, if I see a reduction of the medications that people on for blood pressure, reduces the divorces, all this going down. I'm also going to know from you, from the citizens. I'm sure you're going to let me know how I'm doing, guaranteed. It's not a comfortable seat to be in. I've never sat in it, but I can tell you, being there for 20 years, the community is going to let me know if I'm doing a good job. The commissioners are going to let me know if I'm doing a good job. Downtown is going to tell me if I'm doing a good job. If I'm the sheriff and I don't spend the time with my troops to understand the pulse of my agency, I'm failing as a sheriff. I have to go around and spend the time with my troops so I know what is going on in that entire organization. No matter what area you work in, it's my responsibility to know what's going on. So I will know if I'm doing a good job. As far as if I'll run for sheriff, that'll come down to my success. If I am honored with the interim position, if I'm blessed and supported by the people I work with, 100% I'll run. But if I don't have the support of the people that I work with, if they feel that I'm not the right person for them, I'm not the right sheriff for the community, why would I run? Can you imagine trying to be successful with a team of people that don't believe in you? I wouldn't do that. I don't want to put the people I work with through that. We've been through it before.
Next question starting with Mr. Darling. Our agency had a lot of recent promotions and personnel movement throughout the various divisions. Do you plan on reassessing those changes? And do you have a plan for any future movement during your tenure?
Thank you. And I don't think I answered that last part of the last question. I do not have an intention to run for political office. I'm here with no ego. I'm just here to help if I can, because I've seen what's happened to the Deschutes County Sheriff's Department. I'm disturbed by that. I'm on the outside looking in, and I know you've had a lot of promotions. I know you've had a lot of retirements. I believe that a lot of that has spawned those promotions. But if you don't have people to supervise, then why do we have people in those supervisory positions or command staff? I don't know if you're top heavy, but you have to have the boots on the street doing the job. That's the most important thing in an organization. That would be something that we would take a look at. And like I said, I would have to evaluate that because I just don't have the information.
Not unlike Corey, I've been gone for 4 years, and I understand there's been a lot of promotions and a lot of movement. When I was a captain, there were just 3 captains, no undersheriff, and then there was the sheriff. So we had 3 divisions, and that's how we were aligned. Now I understand once upon a time, way back in like 2011, we had an administrative division, and Shane Nelson actually was the captain at that time over that division. And that division is back. I didn't see a need for it when I was at the sheriff's office and we had 3 captains. I think we operated fairly well and had enough bandwidth as managers to do that, because literally where we need people to be is in those mid-level supervisory areas, sergeants and lieutenants out on the road, serving the people, serving the deputies and the corrections deputies that do the job that this agency is meant for, which is law enforcement, it's manning the jail, it's search and rescue, it's serving civil and doing those types of operations. Like Corey, I don't know what it really looks like today for sure. I would have to sit down and assess that. I would have to talk with people and then make a determination from there about whether or not we can cut some things out and slim some things down. I think there's going to have to be some kind of belt tightening in the future in order to get through the next few years.
Having an idea of what we currently have in terms of management and staffing, I think that I don't have plans to reassess that and make changes to what we currently are doing. I think that we're just starting to do the work we're trying to accomplish to set things in a good order. And so I think it's important that we have the people in place that are. And I think that any sort of change or decision making would rely heavily upon kind of the needs of the office. And if there was any, obviously we got 3 people who work at the office now, and there could necessitate changes. So it's a little bit difficult to say there'd be none, but it will probably be dependent on a case-by-case basis and trying to figure out, weighing the benefits and the costs of moving those positions around.
We'll just take your extra time and give it to Lieutenant McLaughlin.
As far as reassessing, we had some incredible promotions. We had a lot of promotions because we had a lot of people retire at the end of the year last year. As far as reassessing, I think it's important that we go and look at every unit in the sheriff's office. We look at the needs of what the public needs, what the public requires. You do that through communicating with the public. We need to look at every unit and find out if they're staffed accordingly. And we know the units right now, the obvious ones that are understaffed, but we may have some units that are overstaffed. And until we do a comprehensive look into that and determine, hey, do we have too many or do we need more? Because if I need to shift or I need to hire whatever it is, we have so many FTEs, we can't fulfill all, we know that. But it really comes down to the needs of the community and needs of the office. For me, I believe everybody should have enough work to do every day to keep them busy, but not so overworked that they're making mistakes, but so not underworked to where they have too much free time. Free time causes gossip. We don't need gossip. We've been down that road before. So yeah, I would look and see, right off the top of my head, I can think of one position right now. In the past, we've had a lieutenant with the patrol side, and it was more of an administrative function. That may be a position we need to look at. We've shifted some things recently that may have put too much on one person or not enough somewhere else. But it comes down to our service to you. And that's the highest priority to me, is making sure that we're staffed accordingly to make sure that we serve the public. Is there a second part to that? Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me. As far as the reassessing the promotional individuals who have been placed recently, I have to tell you, the line level supervisors that we have right now, which is in large part what we experienced in both January and February regarding the promotions, are second to none. They're fantastic. They're the backbone of the patrol division and investigations. So I couldn't be happier with that, with what we see with our line level supervisors. That being said, I think it's a responsible answer and a responsible approach to say anyone coming in should reassess every single division and every single unit. We're looking to see if we can identify duplicity in action. What can we do that's more efficient and that's more effective? I'm not a fan of leaving the bar where the bar is. I have heard this several times and I want to address it. I've heard, I want to come and help this agency, fix this agency. This agency is not broken. Contrary to what we see, the story and the headlines being, this agency is strong. The men and women that are here need esprit de corps and a shot in the arm regarding morale. But the job that they do every single day is not in jeopardy and it's not in any kind of danger. And trust me when I tell you, they don't need someone to come in and fix them. That's not what we've experienced, is ineffective leadership. Leadership failures at the very top. So let's address the leadership failure at the very top first and foremost, so that we can then support the staff that we have. I will tell you that I have written an intent, an interim intent document. It's public now, and you can see in my vision, the first thing I say is that I want exceptional corrections division. In my mind, and I know that we have a captain in theory that will be leaving soon, retirement-wise. Of course, that would be job one for me to look and assess, do we have people in place? How do I begin a development and a mentorship program yesterday so that we can raise people up within our agency to take over that corrections division? Hugely important. Not to mention the fact that the morale in the correction side needs to be addressed immediately. I would spend the majority of my time with those troops, making sure they know that their voice is heard, that their promotional process should be heard and will be heard. And the next time we have one, there might be bagpipes, there might be an honor guard, there might be the allowance for someone to have, I don't know, a speech or two. And I'm referring to things that a lot of people on camera and that are in this room may or may not know, but it's unspoken, whether it's intentional or unintentional, does not matter to me. The difference is that we need a morale boost across the board. We don't need to be fixed. We just need strong leaders.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to shake things up a little bit here, and we're going to give you actually, because I didn't a lot for this in my timing planning, but I'm going to give you each a 3-minute closing to summarize or cover whatever you felt like you didn't get to cover, and to wrap things up. Ms. McMaster, you're up first.
Well, again, thank you for allowing me to come tonight and speak with you. Throughout my career as a supervisor, I've been a supervisor at the sheriff's office since 2001 when I became a sergeant and then rose to the ranks to captain. I think I was pretty consistent with my interest in the people that I served, the men and women of the sheriff's office, the people on my teams, and trying to create the best environment that I possibly could for each and every individual to succeed. I pride myself on trying to listen to the needs of each individual and trying to, as much as I can, within my abilities and obviously budgetary concerns and things like that, fulfill their needs, whether it's training, whether they need some kind of piece of equipment that we can get for them to do their jobs better. Those are the kinds of things that will make each and every deputy in this agency a better person, a better employee, and in turn will serve our community better. I always used to say that a happy deputy is a productive deputy. And that's the environment that I want to try and create. We want to have integrity. We want to have good, solid ethics. We want to have a good work ethic. We want to serve our community with passion, but we also want to be responsible. And so that's what I would hope to try and instill in people, and just be a people person, to go out and be with people, be with the employees of the sheriff's office, to be encouraging, and to try and do my best to serve them to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I mean, it's not often that we get the opportunity to come and talk to our peers and the people we work for about why we do what we do. So I appreciate this chance. I think that, I'm new to this agency. Only been here a few months. Still got a lot to learn. Still got a lot to kind of develop in who I am as a person and how I serve this agency. But ultimately, I'm committed to being here, committed to working with you all to achieve the office we want it to be. I think that there's a huge upside to who we are and the people that work here. And I think that this is just an opportunity that can't be missed. And so thank you for working with me already. And I just hope that we can continue to do so in the future.
I want to echo with the undersheriff. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks for having me. To the board, the people I work with. It's an honor to stand here. After 20 years, I can't believe I'm standing here. People have talked about me running for sheriff for a few years, several years. And I said, when I get ready, you'll know, and here I am. The people I work with are why I go to work. And the people that are in this room that work with me will truly tell you that I care about them before I care about me. It's been that way my whole life. I put other people before me because that's called servant leadership. Their success is my success, but it's not about Ty, it's about them, which makes our office successful, which will then serve our community even better. But it takes teamwork. We haven't had teamwork for a long time. We have it at the troop level, but it's been dysfunctional at the high end, as you guys know. We have to change that. We have to reestablish the trust. We have to believe in each other. We have to support each other. We need to treat each other with respect. We need to treat the public with respect. We need to get back to the why we're here. Why did I want to be a police officer? Because I wanted to make a difference. When you make a difference in somebody's life, there's no price that you can ever put on that. There's no price. That's why I became a police officer. And I want to get people back to where when they come to work, they're proud to come to the sheriff's office. I don't want them to feel like they work for the bad news bears. They get tired of being in the media all the time. It's not fair to them. These people work hard. They dedicate their lives. It affects their families. My job will be to make sure that I work as hard as I possibly can to make sure that the people that I work with are successful at whatever their goals are.
Well, for my closing remarks, I want to do something a little bit different. And I want to, I try to foster and facilitate honor everywhere I go. I believe that how you start something is inevitably how you will continue it and then how it will finish. So the upheaval and finger pointing and those types of things, while there may be a place, and that may be around a round table desk inside the sheriff's office where we can handle a lot of those things, honor certainly should be public. So I want to say there is a question in here that I'll just address. The question generally is, what have you taken from some of the sheriffs and leaders that you have worked for over the years? I will address Les Stiles as a sheriff at the very beginning of my career. Always had the mantra, you do the right hard thing, not the easy wrong. And it's a special forces motto as well, a military motto. The hard right thing was what he embodied. I love that leadership trait that was pulled from him. Larry Blanton was a trust and verify leader, which kind of shows for me in my leadership style that it means I can empower and entrust you, but it also means I'm not going to leave you alone. You don't just have to do it all by yourself. There'll be checks and balances and verification that comes later on. Shane Nelson showed me how valuable it is and how vital community outreach and impact is. He did far more in the realm of reaching out to the community and pulling them in. And I think we can do much more on that level, and we will. And Kent Vanderkamp, as the sheriff currently, showed me great innovation and what inclusion is like inside an office when you can take opinions from other people. It was a very short-lived tenure, but it was a tenure nonetheless. I don't want to honor all of them for the impact that they did make in a positive manner. I will tell you, what I have learned is that that job is very difficult, that job is probably very lonely at times. And when leaders are lonely and when leaders are in a difficult position, they isolate. And when you isolate and you put yourself on an island and you wear the crown, then inevitably your leadership decisions are going to be impacted for the bad, not for the good. And those are some of the things that I've noticed in my tenure at Deschutes County. It's an honor for me to be here with all of you today. I'm very thankful for the chance that you would let me go past my 3 minutes time and time again. But really, if you have 7 questions and 3 minutes to answer all of them, is that even humanly possible? 10 seconds, see, I'm right on point.
Well, thank you all. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. As you can tell, I'm not a politician. I have no desire to be a politician. I'm a no-nonsense, common sense driven person. If you want to know who I am and my leadership style, there's 2 books that you can read. One is The Dichotomy of Leadership. The other one is Extreme Ownership, both by the same person, Jocko Willink. It works well in the battlefield and it works well in law enforcement. It works well in the corporate office as well. This is your department. It's each and every member of Deschutes County Sheriff Office has a say in the direction of the organization. You have input, you have knowledge, and you have buy-in. It's your agency, and I would foster that. I just want to thank you all, and I want to say that I've worked with Darren, I've worked with Aaron. I tried to still tie away to come work for me, but he was too dedicated to the Sheriff's Department to do that. I have not had the pleasure to work with Lieutenant McLaughlin, but I know the work that he did with the Kaylee Sawyer case, and that's why I'm at the college. And it was the good work that he did that set the tone to where we are today. I just want to thank you all. Have a great night.
Can we please get a round of applause for these 5 gentlemen? I want to thank everybody that came here tonight and participated online as well for being a part of this this big event. And I want to let everybody know and remind everybody that our association right now is very strong, and we are committed to working with each other and working with whomever the county commissioners decide to appoint for this interim sheriff position, and continuing to foster these strong relationships both with within our office and in the community. We will not stop at how we serve and work with the public, regardless of who gets appointed. Even if it's somebody not in this room that gets appointed, our dedication to service will not falter, and appreciate everybody, again, taking the time to be here tonight. So thank you.